Hey everyone, Corey from Aquarium Co-op. Tonight we're talking filtration, and we'll try not to get into fisticuffs today. We'll try to keep it civil. I know everyone's got their own filtration that they love and is the best, and how dare you ever challenge it. But I would like to talk about filtration because it's one of the most asked questions all the time. People are always asking, is this filter going to work on this? Is this going to handle that? Is that going to do that? Is that going to do that? And hopefully I can reference this to be like, watch my 10th filtration video, and maybe it'll address some of the weird questions we get. So I'm hoping people will ask questions and I can answer them. But to get started, I think the first big problem is everyone tries to size their filter to the size of their tank. And in my opinion, that is incorrect. Because if you have a 75-gallon tank and you have 6 neon tetras, you don't necessarily need a filter that's going to handle 75 gallons, right? You need something that's going to handle 6 neon tetras. And conversely, if you had a 20-gallon tank with a 20-gallon rated filter, and you have 2 big goldfish in there, that's not nearly going to handle it probably. And unfortunately, there is no common measurement between all filtration. So whether you have an undergravel filter, a sponge filter, a canister filter, a big pond filter, stuff like that, whatever I write, on the package is what is there. So usually, I could write, this will handle 10 gallons, and then that's just a fact. There's no, it's not like a UL rating or any kind of electricity rating or anything like that that actually goes through any standards. So that's where I think a lot of people are uneasy, is they don't, one guy said he had this filter and all his fish died. The next person says, well, she had this filter and she did great. And I think the best metric we could use is surface area, and I've done a whole video on that, kind of with sponges and bio rings and that type of stuff. And really, it's how much physical area do you have to grow bacteria versus how much do you need. Early in the hobby, I had a tank that was about the size, it was the size of Murphy's tank, so 6 feet long, 4 feet front to back, and I was running 4 FX5 filters by Fluval and a 55-gallon sump because I was running all these big animals. I had a Maboo puffer, I had lots of clown loaches, I had big Tarashukan Niger catfish, I had a giraffe cat, I had a softshell turtle, I had all these things, right? And it turned out that I was able to remove 4 of the Fluval FX5s, and I probably could have even downsized my sump as well, but I didn't want to build another sump. So I was so ridiculously over-filtering out of fear that, it led to a lot of kind of wasted money. I was able to resell them off, but there were definitely times when I was like, oh God, I don't think this is enough. I better buy another one. And that money could have went to more fish, could have went to other types of filters, could have done all kinds of things. So yeah, so who's got questions about filters? Can we see Murphy? We've got a live camera on him. You can go to the website and watch him. And, people are at the store working right now, but I'm not at the store, so can't show Murphy today. Nope. Let's see. I think also we need to know that money doesn't translate to better. So, for instance, someone who doesn't know how to use like a really big canister filter, let's say you were to take it to your sink and you rinse it out not every day, but let's say every 2 weeks, like you want to make sure it's extra clean and all that kind of stuff, that's going to work a lot worse than, let's say, an undergravel filter that is properly maintained. And so I think education matters a lot, and then it comes down to build quality. So for instance, like a Sun filter that a lot of people buy, they're really cheap. I think that's great. Their plastic's a little brittle, which you kind of know that going in, and the UV can actually break down that plastic. But really, filters come down to either a motor or some way of moving water, and then a space to hold media. And the Sun, is about this big. It holds a lot of media if you fill it right. Sometimes people just put what comes with it, and so there's a lot of dead space in there not being utilized. And but it's not UL rated. So for instance, like at my home I have home insurance, or at the store I have insurance on the entire store. If that was to be the cause of a fire, it would make my insurance null and void. Conversely, if you bought, like, let's say the Aquatop version, which is like $100, which is about double the price of that Sun, it will be UL rated and you would be protected there. And so that's where you kind of evaluate, do I take this risk? Don't I? And it just depends on where you are, you know, in life, in money-wise, that type of thing. And so, but, you know, like Eheim filters, they run very low flow, and I think that's kind of a good thing. And so if this is, you know, it's a bottle of water, but this is my filter, and I run water through here really fast, it has to make a lot of passes to actually clean up, let's say, the nitrite in the water. Where if I run the water much slower, it's likely that it'll come out on the other side actually free of nitrite. So faster is not necessarily better, especially with aquariums like Fancy Goldfish. I find this one to be problematic a lot. In fact, I was answering questions about it today. Big filter, because they tend to be fish that are high urea producers and make a lot of waste. But with big filters comes big flow typically. And the Fancy Goldfish are getting really stressed out from all that extra flow and having to try and swim against it. So that's kind of a bad thing. And so Eheim, they do very slow flow, which also does a couple other things. It saves on electricity because we're not moving as much water. We don't have to use as much power to do it as fast. So that's kind of a nice thing, an efficiency thing there. It's also efficient inside the canister. And then in my opinion, the best canisters from Eheim specifically would be their oldest models that don't have any baskets or anything. It's just you fill the whole thing with media. It's a real bear to clean, but there's almost no wasted space. And then you've got, in my opinion, like the opposite canister filter, which might be like the Rena XP3 or something like that, or even their Filstar. What? API makes a blue canister filter that's pretty janky in my opinion, but like in the Rena, they recommend replacing the BioStars every 6 months, which the BioStar itself isn't even that high of a surface area, which is disappointing. And then recommending replacing every 6 months is also disappointing. That being said, all manufacturers pretty much recommend that, and that's unfortunate. Whether it's Eheim with their Substrat Pro, whether it's Fluval with their Bio Rings, or Rena with their BioStars. And it's because no company really wants to tell you never buy it again. They want you to rebuy because that makes money, right? So, you know, that's just kind of canisters. You can also determine which filters are good or not by how many break down on you. I would say that's true, Forensic. It also comes down to some of your style as well. So like for instance, I don't think and it's legit, I don't think I've ever had an AquaClear filter break down on me. I might have had it get a little bit loud and have to replace an impeller because too much sand got in there or something like that. And then conversely, like Bob at Steenfod Aquatics, he's had it where like every single one is broken down on him every time. And so I don't know if it's just a way that we keep them differently or something like that, but definitely the most important part of that conversation is probably, if you have something that's working really well for you, stick with it. Don't let someone else tell you you're doing it wrong or it's not as good or anything like that. You know, if you can drive a car or a certain bicycle or something like that, it's really good for you. If someone tells you something else is better, it might not be better for you. So that's the important part. Got my little juice box today. Supposedly made with 60% real juice. What are my thoughts on hang-on backs for heavily planted tanks? I like them. I don't like them to be super duper fast. So like for instance this morning, someone was asking what I thought about an AquaClear 50 on a 20 long. And so that's going to be a longer tank. I feel like what's going to happen in that scenario, in my opinion, is that they could put it in the middle, they could put it on one side or something like that, but you're going to get a lot of turnover in that one spot, and it might even dig away at some of the substrate, and the plants are going to be getting barraged with flow, right? But then maybe if you have the filter over here, this side's really slow. If you have it in the middle, these two sides are a little slower. I would much rather have, let's say, 2 sponge filters or 2 hang-on backs. Like maybe you do 2 AquaClear 20s and you put them 1/3 the way in, and that might get a better flow pattern, and it's a slower one as well. In general, I like using very little filtration in a planted tank, and by that I mean in the terms of an actual filter. And I would much rather use air stones or wave makers or power heads. We want to move all the nutrients around and keep the plants getting good circulation. But if everything's kind of going right, biologically, the plants will be digesting all of that. And then, the filter itself, yeah, we could use it as a mechanical filter, but, a sponge on the intake of a power head or something like that does that really well. So I find a lot of us buy hang-on backs and all this stuff expecting it to do the work in the plant tank, and the reality is the plants are doing that work. And so I think, as a culture, are really overbuying, when really we should be focusing on flow and that type of thing more so than biological capacity, especially in a plant tank. Now, kind of reef aquarists, in my opinion, have figured that out. There's tons of flow. They're using wave makers, or they've got everything working in conjunction. And a lot of times there's not even a filter. There might be a sump, but there might not even be bioballs. They're using like rock and stuff like that, and just surface area to grow that bacteria. And I think they're kind of more advanced because their corals kind of just die off without it, where our plants won't die off without the good flow. But man, do they appreciate some nice steady flow and currents in there, but not so much they're whipping around either. So, and that's, for me, filtration does break down into those three areas. I would say is kind of like, are we adding flow to the tank? That being area number one. Are we processing ammonia and stuff like that? Biological, that's area number two. Do we have a bunch of fines in the water that just makes it look cloudy, but biologically it's perfect? That would be mechanical, and that's number three. And so there's all different types of filters, and some of them do some of those things really well. Some aren't so good at others. Like if you had a 180-gallon plant tank and you wanted to improve flow on it, you would not put an Eheim canister filter on. That wouldn't help that much. Whereas maybe a couple of power heads would, or an FX6 might really put some flow in there. And so in plant tanks, you see a lot of times we'll use a spray bar, and that's so we can lessen the flow by spreading out the output of a canister over a longer period. That can make the current more gentle. So how does sumps work? I'm setting up a 75-gallon tank. Okay, so we're going to get this way back into the Ross form here. So we talked a little bit earlier about how a filter is essentially a pump, or some way we're going to make water touch bacteria. And so in your sump, it's a box, whether it's acrylic, or it could be a trash can, or it could be a Rubbermaid tote, or it could be acrylic. Doesn't really matter what that is. And then you're going to put stuff in it. So water's going to be there, but maybe you put bio rings, maybe you put sponges, maybe you put a filter pad, maybe you're going to put sponge filters where they're actually bubbling and doing their own thing down there. You also might put your heater down there, so it can hold some other things as well. And if it's a saltwater tank, you might do a protein skimmer. But it's a box, it's going to hold stuff, and then we're going to need a pump. We basically want water to come from the display tank, have it land in the sump, which is just a big filter we've built, basically, and then we're going to pump it back up once it goes through. And so we don't necessarily need it to be crazy fast going through there. It could be relatively slow. We could run it hot faster if we wanted to. A lot of times what you'll see is they'll be built so that when the water comes in, it's being mechanically filtered first. So it might be a filter pad. The water drops onto it, collecting any leaves or big fish poop or whatever. And then it goes down, let's say, over bio balls or bio rings or sponge or whatever you want. And then maybe you've got a wall in it, and then maybe it goes through, like in a koi pond, it might go through different grades of metalamat, and then it might get to its pump and pumped back in. Now, other setups that do the same thing, like maybe the water drops in, you've got filter socks, and that's just a fine micron mesh sock. Water goes through, it still collects those larger debris. Then we're going to do some biological typically, maybe in a saltwater tank, and really we could do it in freshwater too. Maybe that next section is actually a refugium where we're growing lots of live plants and we're processing, and the plants are sucking up the ammonia and nitrite and nitrates, and then the water's going back up because your main display tank has a bunch of fish that eat plants, and so you can't grow them up there. We can do that in saltwater, we can do it in freshwater. And so really, that most basic thing, the sump is a box to hold stuff in there, and it could be any of those things I just talked about, and you can design it any way you want. That's kind of the fun of it. And you can even have a section in there that has nothing, and that could also hold like a sick fish or something like that. It doesn't even have to come out of its water. You just take it out, you put it down there, and now it's sharing the same water, not getting stressed out. You could raise babies down there. I've seen a lot of African cichlid breeders do that, so it never leaves the same water. And then you can do some advanced things like they do in saltwater, and I'm hoping to start playing with in freshwater, and that is maybe you get microorganisms and cultures of things living down in that sump that eventually they make their way to the pump and get put into the tank. And so maybe you've got Daphnia down there, or scuds, or some copepods, or you could even be snails, like baby Malaysian trumpet snails. It wear on the pump after a while, but they could get shot in the tank, and maybe you've got a bunch of puffers up top. And so yeah, kind of a lot of things going on with a sump there, and that's I think what makes them so confusing. Is you could type in sump, aquarium sump, and see 50 different types, and they're all the same thing, because it's kind of like saying car. And then you're going to go, well, that looks like a truck, that looks like a semi. And it's like, well, they're kind of all cars, really. Michael Johnson asks, think I can use very porous ceramic media in a wet dry effectively, like Momotaro bacteria house. I don't know the Momotaro bacteria house, but I do think very porous material, I like it to be very coarse. If it's really fine, so what that means, like an airstone, for instance, it's really fine. It's hard to even blow through it. The pores can actually be so small that bacteria clog them up and it doesn't work as efficiently. Whereas a coarser, let's say sponge, or even like a more coarse ceramic, something like that, because the holes are bigger, it's much less likely to get clogged up with debris and stuff like that. And through my research, actually, when I was kind of researching activated carbon, it's actually a very fine filter as well. So the activated carbon will sift out very fine particles out of the water, and so even that's actually what causes it to go inactive mostly, is not so much it absorbs so much perfume or ammonia or whatever that is. It's the fines in the water we can barely see, and it's so fine it's collecting it and it blocks the pores, and that's what stops it from being kind of active. So I genuinely like more coarser stuff. What filter for a 2,000-gallon freshwater fish room? If you're filtering the entire fish room, I would probably go with some kind of big sump. My old boss that I used to work for, he had a 125-gallon just completely filled with bioballs and a couple of pads on the top, and that handled his entire fish room, and I think it was about 6,000 gallons of water, and made it really easy. He was just servicing one, and he had it so he could turn. He also had sponge filters in every tank, so he could turn off any tank that new fish came in off the system, and then after they were healthy in there for at least a month, he could turn them back on. And so that was kind of a hybrid between all isolation or all in the same system, and it worked out decently well for him. I don't think he really ran into too many problems that ever took out the entire group of stuff. So I think it happened to him once, but you always get more cautious after that. Primetime Aquatic says, all I know is I can run a 20 long with a Hydro 2 sponge filter and have no ammonia with 100 pleco juveniles in the tank. Yes. So in my opinion, in my fish keeping hobby, I have grossly overfiltered every tank I've ever kept. And right now I'm running a lot of tanks that don't even have filters. And so what that means is I don't have a physical filter I bought running on it. What it does mean is I do have filtration going on. I have gravel, I have bacteria, I have plants, that stuff's happening. But I might only be running an airstone in there, as opposed to I used to run a sponge filter or a hang-on back filter or something like that. So it's important to learn your water change schedule versus how much filtration you have versus how much biological capacity the entire tank has. Like a bare bottom tank will have much less bacteria than one that has some gravel or with some plants or a piece of wood, that type of thing. It's all extra surface area. What's my favorite filter? I think if money is no object and power is not restricting me, I think I choose, I've done it all. So that's the thing, is I've really built a lot of different things, different fish rooms, that type of thing. And honestly, my favorite are hang-on back filters, and I really like AquaClear filters. Now, I like it because I can service one in less than 5 minutes. Canister filters are great, but I tend to neglect them, so I will service them once every 6 months or a year. And I have the intake sponge and stuff like that, and it allows me to do that. But when I do break them down and service them, it's 30 minutes worth of work, and I don't enjoy it. And I got to crawl into the back of a stand and get it out of there, and I'm usually sloshing a little bit of water. And I just almost never have that problem with the hang-on back filter. And so if I had to choose one, and only one only, and price was no object and all those things, I would choose those. Now, price is an object for me at the store, so it's like, well, why are you using sponge filters? Well, because, you know, a couple hundred aqua clears isn't cheap. I got to be able to plug in a couple hundred aqua clears. I got to have the power banks to make sure I can run that. It'll cost me more money and power to run them. And yeah, those are basically the reasons. But I would totally use them at home, and I do use them at home. Right now I don't think I have any running, but I will probably in the future. In fact, any of the big tanks I'm going to have made, I'm going to have it so I can have hang-on backs. What's a good filter for a 10-gallon shrimp tank? I like sponge filters myself, or a hang-on back filter with a sponge intake. Either one of those tend to work really well for me. I'm going to scroll through here, make sure I'm not missing any super chats, because it can happen where it starts moving too fast and then I don't see it, and I just want to make sure I'm not leaving anyone behind. You know, obviously the more you donate, the longer it stays up. But last night, me and Bob missed like 2 of them, and we had 2 people watching for him. So, you know, I want to make sure that it doesn't go rogue. 634 people watching. Yowza. Let's see here. Could you place a sponge on top of an undergravel filter instead of gravel in a 3-gallon if done correctly? So, Cassie, I do believe you could. I haven't tried it yet, but I've wanted to kind of play around with it. I thought about using the Metalamat or sponge, but I'm not sure I gain anything from it. So with gravel, you can at least gravel vac it and get some of the waste out of there. And you can do that a bit with sponge as well. But I'm not sure if it helps me more than just doing it for the sake of doing it. And that, you know, that's a lot in the hobby. That's, you know, that's why I had 4 FX5s. Not because I really needed it, because I just wanted to do it. And I think I could learn some stuff from doing that experiment. But I'm not sure it's better than gravel yet, but I haven't tried it. So, Little Largemouth says, I'm confused on dead spots. Says there's an area with little flow in the tank. Does that mean there's little to no oxygen? What if the fish don't want flow and don't want to be forced to swim and to stay still? So that I can't quantify because I've never used a lab to really do it. But in my experience, I would say there's still going to be perfectly good oxygenation. What you're kind of describing with dead spots is what you experience in ponds. That's stratification, where different layers will be different temperatures and different oxygen levels and things like that. I don't think in the average aquarium with any reasonable flow that we would normally have that we'd run into that problem. So I think if you have a filter, a air stone, something in there, I think we pretty much take care of that. But yes, could we optimize it a little bit more? We probably could. And you can have a power head that does 300 gallons per hour and it's in a beam and it's really thrashing the tank around. You can also have a circulation pump that's 300 gallons per hour, but it's such a wide, broad fan that it's very low flow at all, and that might mix it up even better. And then as far as dead spot goes, the best thing you can do is almost like a wave maker, or set up different points of water movement on timers. So maybe this one's on for 4 hours, then this bottom right corner is on for 2 hours, so they're both on, and then this one shuts off, this one's still on for another 2 hours, then this one comes on for an hour, and what that'll do is it'll change the directional flow of that tank, and it can help move stuff to a filter, it can help move nutrients around for plants, but it all costs more, and it's all more stuff in that aquarium, and maybe you're going, I don't want 4 power heads and stuff like that. So, there's a lot going on and a lot of ways to approach it. Also, if you have bigger fish, as they swim, they really get a current going. So it might be just a total non-issue. Rob and Amanda are here from Flip Aquatics. They do the pre-game show. They go before I am, so hopefully you guys watched that before you got here. They do it every Sunday, just like I do it every Sunday, which brings up a good point. Next Sunday, I will not be here. I'm in Colorado speaking, and I'll be on a plane basically flying about this time on Sunday night. So there'll be no live stream tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week, but there will be the following week. Let me know down in the comments if you want like an Easter extravaganza, like an 8-hour nerdathon. I'll see if I can pull that off. Is that following week? I think it is, but you know, whatever it is. Let's see here. Update on the wife's tank. Currently can't. There's a bunch of furniture in front of it from the house remodel. That'll be coming out down the road where you can kind of see a little bit more on the house remodel and the fish room remodel. Well, I'm not remodeling the fish room, but redoing the fish room. And but I'll tell you what, I've got a big Eheim filter on that tank, and I really do not like that filter. So I'm planning to move that tank, I think, into the fish room here, and I do not plan on keeping that filter going on it. I just am not. It splits the, so it's got 2 intakes and 1 output, and I don't know. I feel like for such a big filter, it is just not creating the flow that I want in that aquarium. And so it's also, one side will suck harder than the other based on different flows and stuff like that. You know, so anyway, that's just my tying it in, I guess. How much bio load can a sponge filter handle? Example, a 10-gallon with a betta, small schools of neon and shrimp. So in my experience, I think almost any size sponge filter in a 10-gallon can handle more fish than you can actually put into it. Because it's going to use all that sponge, but then it's also going to use the gravel and the plants you have and things like that. And yeah, I think the main reason we have sponges that are made for 10-gallon and 20-gallon and 50-gallon and 100-gallon is so that we buy them, as opposed to this one can't handle that one. Because let's say you have that small school of neons, a shrimp, and the betta in a 10-gallon, and you move them to a 20-gallon, your average customer, and so that's just someone that walks into a Petco, a PetSmart, and goes, well, I bought a different tank. I have to buy a filter for that tank that matches it. So, but the reality is you could take that filter and move it over there, and it would handle it just fine as long as you didn't change the stock level at all. And so it's a money-making tactic that we pair tanks and filter sizes, not the amount of fish and that. So usually we go for surface agitation, don't we? So I personally don't. I've been experimenting a lot lately, and I want to dissolve oxygen into the water. I've been able to witness decent amounts of surface agitation with still really low levels of oxygen in the water. I own a dissolved oxygen meter. You guys have seen me do tests on it. And just from what I've played with, just because you have lots of rippling on the top does not mean you have good oxygenation. I would say 60% of the time you do. 40% of the time you don't. But in my experience, an air stone going in a tank, it's basically 95% of the time great oxygenation. And even if it's just a slow, like a bubble every, second, it dissolves in like CO2 does. And so we get really high levels of oxygen with really low agitation if we don't want it. Now, agitation is great if you want to break up protein films from your fish food that you're feeding and stuff like that, which we should bring that up. A lot of times, it doesn't get brought up in filtration discussions, but the protein films on top, that's what surface skimmers are for. So like Eheim makes a surface skimmer. They're used a lot in saltwater. Overflow box for a sump, that's also a surface skimmer, so all the proteins would just fall over and go down and get filtered. They make extensions you can put onto canisters and hang on back filters. And then in general, when you have a sponge filter or bubbles, what they'll do is they go to the surface and they pop, and that flicking motion, it actually just flicks the oils and stuff like that onto glass and stuff like that, and that's how we actually remove it there. So it also can help get it back into the water where we can maybe absorb it with Purigen or carbon, or further break it down as well with some biological. So good substitutes for filter floss. I mean, you can use like different layers of sponge, from least coarse, so finest, to less coarse. But you know, I don't know that there's going to be something that's going to be cheaper for any what am I trying to say? It's the cheapest thing that's going to be there. So Joel says, $2 super chat, by the way. Easter extravaganza, let's do it. We got to think of some topics or something, or something that I can talk about for 8 hours, like tacos. So in the comments, when this is all over, think about what we want to talk about for Easter. I should probably do some sales or something as well. So Priscilla, $2 super chat, says, yeah, it happens. I don't know what yeah it happens is going towards, but thank you for the $2. Yeah, I'm scrolling back up, make sure I didn't miss any more. But those literally, I don't understand. They literally didn't even pop up on the upper left-hand side. I wonder if I've noticed some changes. I wonder if they've changed it to not have $2 pop up or something for me. Like, I was looking at options and stuff, but so I apologize for that. Not willingly ignoring. Let me scroll back down here. I'm a fan of canister filters because you can have all your equipment inline, CO2, UV, heaters, etc. That's true, Matt. You know, in theory, you can do that with hang-on-backs too. Like, I know Tetra used to make one called the Tetra Tech, and then Rena makes one that can do all of that as well. And I already run my CO2 inline to my hang-on-back, so yeah. But no, that's a definite useful thing, is to be able to run it all inline. So this person says, I think stocking is a way more heated topic. I think it's about the same, because in that conversation you end up talking about filtration and water changes and stuff like that, and really it all lumps together between, you know, way overstocked versus not overstocked. It's all people's opinions, and that's the thing is, that's why so many people don't share online, by the way, is because you could post a picture and half the people say that's super cool, and 50% say you're a horrible person and you should kill yourself. And what that does is people just go, oh, well, I just won't post anymore. And so you have, you know, tens and hundreds of thousands of hobbyists who don't want to share at all. Even though they might have come up with something amazing or it's cool and they can educate or whatever, they just don't want to because it's not worth the effort. So, you know, I try to bring... No, that's not true. I'm not saying I'm trying to bring a controversial subject. I'm trying to make it so that we can have a discussion about something that's kind of controversial, maybe on Facebook or something like that, and try to look at it from all angles and, you know, understand basic concepts. So just like with overstocking of fish, let's say, whatever works really well for you and your family is probably the right answer. What works well for someone else, that's their opinion. And until there are laws regarding it, it's kind of opinion-based. And there are some laws, like I know in the UK and stuff like that, where they can go in and they can kind of evaluate the health of your fish, and they can determine whether you're abusing them or not. We don't have that in the US, but when something like that gets established, then we have a metric to measure, are we overstocking, are we aren't, because otherwise it's just opinions. And so, for instance, imagine there was no speed limits, right? There's no guidelines at all. And you have one person driving down your neighborhood and they're driving 20 miles an hour, and the next person drives 50, and the next person drives 100. Well, it's in their opinion they're all driving the correct amount because they're evaluating their skill level. At 100 miles an hour, they feel like they can dodge someone's dog or a kid or something like that. And the next person thinks, I better drive at 20 because I don't want to accidentally kill someone. But in their own minds, all three of them are correct. And once laws came in to have established speeds, then... now we have a metric we can at least weigh that a group of people, you know, society has come together to mostly or at least a majority agree on this speed. So even though that person that drives at 100 still feels he or she could dodge all the obstacles, we as a society have, you know, decided that this is what we agree on. And that's the same thing. So once some rules comes out, we can do that. And we can do the same thing with filtration. That's why filtration is so hard as well, is because there are no rules. You know, you can run a tank without a filter. You can buy one that says it's rated for 2,000 gallons. So you know, just to put this in perspective, I actually bought a filter rated for 4,000 gallons for a pond. I'm going to run it on my 1,000-gallon pond. But I'm also thinking about running it on like a 1,000-gallon fish tank. And what makes it this filter that's like this big, like the size of an FX6, what does that make, why is that able to handle 4,000 gallons of pond water? But the FX6 can only handle, 300 or 400 gallons of aquarium water. That doesn't really make sense to me. And it's because there's nothing really changing anything except for publicity, not publicity, but advertising. And by the way, both those filters made by the same company. So it's, how does one thing that's about the same size and the other thing about the same size one handles 1/4 the size of the other one? That seems very peculiar. I can't talk. But we got another super chat. Bob's helping me out, by the way. It's super good. Let me find it real quick. There we go. So we got Joel. Thank you for the $1. And there's another one, too. Autumn Storm says, live stream about crayfish and invertebrates. Possibly in the future. I kind of, shoot from the hip, so to speak, on the topics. And I kind of go, what am I feeling? What am I feeling like talking about? Because if I'm into it, I think it makes for a way better stream. Where if I wake up today and I go, ugh, I don't want to talk about crayfish, I'm going to be like watching the minutes count down until I'm done talking about crayfish. But, that definitely, at some point in the future, I will talk about more invertebrates. I've done shrimp before. I've done kind of snails before. I haven't really done it on crayfish, and it's really hard for me to do it on crayfish because I haven't experienced a lot of them because they're illegal here. But, I do know a decent amount about them. Phew, all right. Where did I want to go? How good or bad are the Hikari sponge filters compared to the ATI sponge filters? So, the ATI sponge filter, the non-pro version, is essentially almost the exact same thing as the Hikari sponge filter. They're both what's called closed cell foam. So they're very fine pored, and they'll catch a lot of fine debris, but they can also clog up faster. Where the ATI Pro sponge, and that's the only one I sell, that's my favorite, it's a lot coarser. And so you hear me saying this a lot of this live stream. I like coarser media because they don't clog as fast. They also don't catch as much, so know that. But if you really want to make your water clear, you'd use a Hikari sponge filter or an ATI non-pro version. If you want to break down a lot of ammonia and stuff like that and not have to worry about ever having it clog or something like that, the ATI Pro sponge gives you that coarser foam. And it just depends on how often you want to service it and stuff like that. And so I wouldn't say... So the original question is, how good or bad are they in comparison to the other? They're just different. And they're very similar, but you would buy them based on what is the goal you're trying to accomplish. More mechanical or more biological? And I usually focus on biological because I can deal with, ooh, there's some muck in the tank. But if I have ammonia in the tank, that's just dead fish. So Robert Merle says, have you tried the Seachem or /Seache tidal hang-on back filter? I have not. I find them to be like just as expensive as the AquaClear, and I don't see any improvements from reading through it above the AquaClear. And so I haven't tried one. They haven't sent me one either yet. But in general, when I did sell Seache, which they carried canister filters and internal filters and stuff like that, their support to me as a store was so bad that I stopped selling them and I don't support them anymore. So that being said, Seachem's customer service is very good. So maybe, we pair this manufacturer with this company and maybe we get a great product out of it. But so far, I haven't taken the leap to try it. I've watched a lot of other YouTubers like AquaPros did a video on it, I think just a couple of days ago. I know PecTech, I think's done it. I think Angry Fish Keeper has done it. I'm trying to think of other people I know that have bought this, and they all have different varying opinions on what they do and don't like about each one of the things, the doodads and the different things. But I haven't tried one yet. I mean, if I had to say things I like about it, I like that it's black already. I kind of like that the pump's inside the tank. But there's some other things like the float and that kind of stuff, which I'm not a fan of. Well, it's not that I'm not a fan of. I don't think it should be hyped as much. Like they put slits in the top of the filter, and then they describe it as allowing better oxygenation for the bacteria. Now, I guess technically that's a true statement, but if the filter's doing its job right, the water should be highly oxygenated, and we're pumping that through, and those slits on the top should never come into play. And in fact, thinking about it and even talking about it out loud, I find that is detrimental, because now that's letting more humidity actually out into my air. As like, imagine I have a glass top and it's all closed up and you just have this filter. It's like having the top off almost. And you know, if I wanted that, I could take the top off of my AquaClear filter and look at that, I've got tons of, you know, off-gassing, so to speak, that I don't need. But I don't have the option to keep it fully enclosed because it's got those slits or whatever. So, you know, but I'll try one. You know, that's the thing, is it could have some feature that no one else values that I value very highly, and you never know that till you've used it. So, you know, I try not to knock stuff too hard till I've tried it, because for all I know, it's got a doodad on it that makes my life amazing, and it trumps everything else I just said that I might not like about it. So, alrighty. 699 people watching. Is that true? Is that a true statement? Let's see here. 734 is the peak. We need, what is that? We need 66 more grandmothers and grandfathers and nieces and nephews and mothers and fathers to tune into this live stream. Let me tell you what. That puts us at 800. That's a new record, right? I just used a bio sponge so I don't have to spend $5 a month on filter pads. Web surfer, that is a very valid point. But as I was talking with someone who flew in and I spent the day with them this weekend, there is an entire demographic that want the filter pads. So imagine an office building where, let's say it's the janitor or secretary's job or something like that to maintain the tank. They just want to remove 5 pads, put 5 pads back in, done. But maybe teaching them to not do this or do that a certain way is much harder. Maybe they don't want to put their hands in the tank, that kind of stuff. So there is a market even for the people that want to spend $5 on filter pads. Maybe that's an easier ease of use. But yes, I agree that I would much rather have sponges than reusable. It doesn't have to be sponge, but reusable materials versus cartridges. What is a good calculation for bioload versus filtration surface area? I don't want to waste K1 media. I don't know if I have that calculation. I think it's I don't know. Like the way I keep fish, it's established from what I've known has worked in the past. So the longer I do it, the more I can get away with even less filtration, because I go, well, I did it over there and it worked fine. But I don't know of like a direct, you know, this is gonna work for that when it comes to filtration surface area. Because even different foods are going to break down. They've got different amounts of fillers. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some different studies on K1 where they're claiming like a 2 liter can handle 8 ounces of food a day. I've seen it where, you know, I think Joey says like 2 liters can handle like a quarter of an ounce a day or something like that. I don't know who's right. I only know that typically, I don't think I've used K1 media to solely filter anything of mine. It's always been as part of a filtration system I have going. So I can't attribute, and even still, even if you only had K1 media, you could still, it could be all the gravel or just the bacteria on the glass is doing the work. So it's really hard to quantify that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Scrolling down, making sure, trying to make sure I don't miss any super chats. What should I use for filtering out smart particles, making my tank cloudy? One of the best things is filter floss. Anything where, like, so imagine you're trying to breathe through this shirt. It's really fine, right? If you were to ram all the water through there, it'd catch really fine particles. So you want that. So imagine you had a bunch of layers of, you know, I wouldn't use cotton because that's going to rot, but let's say filter floss, that would work. Filter pads. Even like if you had like 10 feet of like lava rock, eventually it would filter out every fine by the time it got to the bottom. The goal is then, once you filter it out, what's the easiest way to service it? That's the bigger thing, is you don't want it to like all slough off if you're trying to take it out. But filter socks, micron cartridges, filter floss, fine filter pads, those are all known to be very good at polishing the water. Sometimes a UV sterilizer can help break down some of those things, that like a little bit of living algae and things like that. That can help polish it a little bit more. But yeah, I think those are the main ones I can think of. Any suggestions for a pre-filter on your Marineland Penguin 200, which has a square tube, so I can't use something like the Filter Max 3 on my Aquaclear 70, which I currently love? I usually use like my large intake sponge, and then I adapt. So I should have done that. This video is like my #1 video to like do, and I just never do it. But let's say here it's back, my vial. Let's say this is your intake tube, but let's say your sponge is this big around. It's not going to work because all the water is going to go right around it, right? So what you need to do is you need to put layers of like vinyl tubing. So like let's say a tubing that comes from a bulkhead, you put that around there. And then you put another one around that, a bigger one. So now it's that big and that sponge fits over the whole thing. You build an adapter. And you can do the same thing with that square thing as well. And I just need to make the video on how to do it, and then everyone will understand it. So, yeah. Pray for Mojo says, Fluval 306 is sucking in air but not leaking. What can it be? So, if it's not leaking water, usually what I've found is that is a leaky hose. Usually on the return side. So, well, it could be on the intake side too, but check the fittings on the quick disconnect. Make sure your rubber grommets are fit really well. And then also check up at the parts that are going to go over the tank. Both those spots, because it's like a Venturi system, right? If I have water coming out this nozzle and I poke a hole here, the water's already going, it's going to keep going, it's going to suck air in though while it's going. And that's what's going to happen. It could happen anywhere in your hose. The other place, but usually you find a water leak there, but it could be the seal around the top gasket. So you want to make sure you service those with maybe some silicone, or they make like you can use cooking oil like Pam and stuff like that to help service it. And I would check those 2 points though. Super chat from Inglorious Bettas, who's got a YouTube channel if you guys didn't already know. I think Jimmy's working on the video I did at her house well, not right now, but this weekend. She says an ideal objective metric for determining whether your filtration / stocking is actually working for you. Frequent water testing, fish health, and she says thank you. So my metric is, first and foremost, because I've been doing it a long time, is how do the fish look? Because fish don't lie. You could have a test kit that's lying to you, but the fish, if they look like they're doing amazing, they are doing amazing. But I do think frequent water testing, I don't know if it needs to be frequent, but I think it needs to be on a schedule so you can notice patterns. So for instance, if you have a tank that's been going for a year, maybe you test it once a month, right? And you test it, and it's the same every month. You're going, yep, I'm at 80 parts per million nitrates. I'm going to do my water change, and then when I get back, it's at 80 again. But one day, if it was at 120, you know, oh, wow, that's way higher than I thought. Did I switch foods? Is it that one of my filters broke down? Did I not service that one? Did I forget to do that? Did I not do as big of a water change? Really, when you test water, you're looking for what's not normal. And hopefully we're not keeping our fish in normal bad conditions so we can realize when something's abnormal. That makes it really easy. And so I think visual inspection is important, but then also some water testing to reaffirm what you either think is or isn't going on. And that's the best metric I can come up with, I think. I don't think I can... Well, the other metric I use a lot is fish breeding. And I've had people point out to me that fish can also breed in bad conditions. But in general, I find when fish are breeding for me, they're pretty happy, at least the way I keep fish. So that's one of my other metrics I'm looking at. And that comes into the looking at the fish and how happy are they and stuff like that. So thank you for that, Gian. Let's see here. Can anyone explain the $5 thing? I'm guessing geckos and guppies means that super chat. So currently not on iPhone or Macs, I guess. iOS. You can't do this, but it's called a super chat. You can basically donate some money, and then that kind of brings that up to the top, and you can ask your question. Now, the longer or the more money you spend, the longer it stays up there. It doesn't have to be a question. You could just say, like, Corey loves tacos, and you can say whatever you want, really. But That's what it is, super chat. And what I was trying to get to is, it's really hard with this many people to keep up. And so the more money you spend, the easier it is for me to address it. Because I don't want to be like addressing someone's question and then break out from the middle of it to address the super chat, then go back to finishing the question. So I have considered turning super chat off, but I'm hoping we can just find a way to make it work. I looked this morning, I was really hoping to make it so that the cheapest was $5, because then it stays up for 5 minutes. A $2 super chat, I don't even think it's going up anymore. $1 for sure don't go up. But $2, I don't think they're going up for me anymore. And that means it's really hard for me to see. And then even if it did go up, it only stays up for 2 minutes. And it's really hard to finish up a complete thought on a subject and then delve into that. So, yeah. Seth asked, how do you maintain your underground filters? I've been thinking about playing with them, but it seems like maintaining them would be a pain compared to something like a sponge filter. So you would gravel vac, and then I would also say there's a stigma attached to even your explanation there. We're already assuming that maintaining them is harder or worse. But if you haven't done it yet, you can't really know that. And I'm not convinced that the mulm underneath the plate is a bad thing. And if I was, you could set it up with drains below it. You know, you could like plumb in drains, open them up and suck the gunk out from underneath. There's some people that'll use a shop vac at the tube to suck it up. So there's some ways to do that, but I'm not convinced that it's actually detrimental. And I've been doing some more research into what's called a plenum. They use them in some of the bigger aquariums, stuff like that. You want different layers of stuff to stratify, and you can actually grow some different types of bacteria, similar to a deep sand bed and stuff like that. But yes, it might. If you're asking how to get physical debris out of that from underneath that plate, it probably is harder than a sponge filter. That being said, it might have way higher surface area. It might be longer periods of time between servicing. And if you go back to the underground filter video I did, there's been like hundreds and hundreds of comments of people that have chimed in saying they're doing it. They've had it going for 10 years, never had a problem, love it, keep all their tanks that way, blah, blah, blah. And so you could, kind of do that and learn for yourself. So like for me, I haven't serviced any of mine yet, and they're all still doing great. And I've got one at the store that gets serviced about every 8 to 12 months. We keep zebra plecos and stuff on it, never have a problem. And so I end up doing maintenance on them out of fear, not out of, oh man, that needs to be done, for me personally. We got a super chat from Canosaurus 2014. Connoisseurs? Is that connoisseurs? Connoisseurs? Yeah, that's how you spell connoisseurs, I would guess. Do I ever do fish room design consultation? If so, what is the best way to contact you for that? I do. I have done that before. The best way is to go on the website, and there's a little tab under products, I think, called paid consultations, and you can buy hobbyist time. I also do it for stores and stuff like that, but when you're making a profit off of my time, it costs you more, whereas if you're a hobbyist just wanting to enjoy the hobby, I charge less. But you can buy, I think the minimum is a half an hour, and the most would be in an hour, and you can buy multiple hours if you really needed to, but definitely get your questions prepared, because I want to answer them as fast as I can. Just like we're doing right now, expect this, except they're all your questions, and I'm trying to answer your questions, and then we can do it by phone, we can do it by Skype, which is what most people want to do with me. They can show me stuff, they can walk me around the fish room or anything like that. So, but yeah, that's the avenue you'd go down, and I do have clients, I call them clients, I guess, customers, whichever, that utilize that service pretty regularly. Jane Tank says, hi Corey, made a small donation to the Aquarium Research Center. Friendly challenge to everyone on the chat. They've collected $2,650 so far. So yes, the Amazon Research Center, if one of the mods wants to track down that link and get it into the chat for people, that would be cool. I'm hoping to go visit it, maybe next year or something like that. And we're going to auction off a piece of art. I'm going to pick it up for my store tomorrow. It probably won't be, because I won't have a live stream, I probably won't even start it till a week from then, but we're going to auction it off on the website, and all the proceeds are going to go to the Amazon Research Center. And Priscilla, who's in the chat, was nice enough to I don't know if the right word is draw it, paint it, create it. She created it, and it's amazing. And so I'm hoping people, here's my hope. My hope is people spend a lot of money, and I drop out, and I don't just win it for like $100, because I will totally buy that thing for like $100. I would probably even pay more, but I want it to be a real bidding war and be like, oh, it hurt, but it's all for charity. I want that to happen. So Bob said I missed a super chat, so I'm going to scroll up here and see if I can find it. So I've got Glorious Bettas. Scrolling down. I might not have scrolled down that far yet. Going. Let's see here. We got Jane Tank. Got that one. Connoisseur's got that one. Steenfod Aquatics with the $2. So I'm convinced. I'm 100% convinced. $2 super chats are not showing up at the top. The $5 ones totally are doing it. For some reason, $2 ones are not. So Corey loves soft tacos. I just want everyone to know that Bob will never be seen in one of my videos again. That is war. That's all there is to say about that. You burrito-loving son of a gun. Anyway, let me scroll down. Let me grab some more stuff. Is Dorkula home? She is home. We're doing tacos for dinner. She said it this morning before she went to work, so I'm stoked. Crunchy tacos, which I shouldn't have to clarify because if it's not crunchy, it's not a taco, but... Tyler Duncan says, hey Corey, I've got a borderline overstocked 55-gallon community tank. Would you do 2 hang-on backs, 60-gallon rated filter, or 2 55-gallon sponge filters? I personally would do 2 sponge filters because without hot rodding those hang-on backs, the sponge filters are going to have way more surface area than the hang-on backs will. But if you were to hot rod the hang-on backs, they would have way more surface area. If you already own either one, I would tell you do that first. That always trumps like everything. If you already own one and don't have to go spend money, either spend a little bit of money and hot rod it or just use it. Like bacteria is such a primitive thing, we can do it with almost anything. So Clownfish Farm says, if you wanted to only grow duckweed indoors without a large pond, how would you do it? Lighting, vessels, less than, so 48 by 12 by 12 tank, that's a 33-gallon long, and fertilizer. So, thanks for the super chat, by the way. How would I do that? What would I do? So I don't know if you have other tanks, but I would probably do it in like a Rubbermaid tote or something like that. And I would keep some water in there, and I would just put like a shop light over it or something like that. And I would do change water into it. So if you had goldfish or you have something that has nitrates in the water, I would just kind of top that water off every week and change it a bit, and I would do that type of thing. You could do fertilizers, but duckweed is pretty undemanding as long as you gave it some nitrogen in there. Like, it doesn't need a lot of the other trace elements, and pretty easy to propagate. So yeah, that's my go-to. Let's see here. After read this, I think this guy's got a cool name, and so I'm going to do it. Slurpy Gamma says, can you say hi for my YouTube channel? So there you go, Slurpy Gamma. You got it. Hey, Corey, I know you love fish, and I know you love tacos, but I'm curious on my thoughts on fish tacos. I would eat fish tacos. Well, first, I eat things that people call fish tacos, which are really fish burritos. But that's besides the point. I would love to have fish that's been deep fried put onto a crunchy taco. But I've had it before, because when you go to like Taco Del Mar, you can have them put anything together. I don't want any of this like coleslaw and this weird stuff that's not tacos. Like, I do fish, like black pinto beans or normal, refried beans. Then I want sour cream, and then I want guacamole, and then I want onions on it. I want all this stuff, and it would be better if it was on a crunchy taco. It's just most times they don't do it, so that's the problem. Let's see. Ooh, I wanted to talk about that. Where'd it go? Something about an ozone generator. Dang nabbit. If I see it again, I'll bring it up. Do I eat fish in front of the fish to show him who's boss? Not specifically to show him who's boss, mostly because I'm just always in front of fish. But yes, I love to eat fish. And, yeah, mostly deep fried fish, let's be fair. But I do love fish. What's Lamont up to? Lamont's actually getting married real soon here. I won't say when, because some people know like what state he lives in and all that kind of stuff, and I don't want it to be weird, but very soon Lamont's getting married. So that's what he's up to. Pretty awesome. My congrats to him and Jessica. If they happen to be watching this, which they wouldn't be, but if they did, Congrats. Let's see. Matthew says, Corey, my air bubbler is acting up every time I put it in all the way at the bottom. It would stop. What should I do? So that could be a sign that your air pump is failing. But let me explain what's going on. The further you put it down, the more back pressure there is. And so when you lift it up, there's less pressure and air can get out. So it could be that maybe your air stone is restricting it some, and that's causing back pressure. Or it could be that the pump just can't handle it. So a way to kind of help tell, take the air stone off. Can you put it all the way to the bottom of the aquarium? Does it still bubble? If so, your air stone might be getting clogged up. You might try like a never clog air stone or something like that. So a shameless plug off my own website. Or just replace it with another air stone and maybe that fixes it too. So, Corey, what are your thoughts on the cheesy gordita crunches from Taco Bell? I think I've only had one and I don't think I was that big of a fan of it. But I do love Baja Blast, like you say. And Baja Blast is your spirulina brine shrimp. I'm sure the nutritional profiles go hand in hand there. Yeah, just as good for you. Do inline heaters work well, and are they worth a try? I think anything's worth a try that you've never played with before, because you always kind of learn about it. But, like the high door ones, they seem to have a decently high failure rate, and they don't leak water typically, they just go out. But, so do normal heaters. So I would experience as much as you can. Aquariumcoop, do you have an experience with drum filters? I don't have any experience with drum filters myself. I want to play with them, especially the self-cleaning drum filters using koi ponds and larger systems. I've never bought one yet, and I've never built one. So between both of those things, I'm kind of out of the loop. I know how they work. I think the technology is really cool, how it removes a solid straight from the water column so it can't further dissolve. I like that technology, but I think I might employ some of that technology when I build a really big koi pond. So let's see. I always forget, and I just thought of it right now, so I want to say it because I don't say it often enough. Thanks to all the mods that help putting links in, and I got Bob feeding me super chats, which is nice. I've got you guys just getting people that are out of hand, and you share my stuff, all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys. I don't say it enough, and a lot of times I'm thinking, dang it, I was gonna say that at the end, and I didn't. I got distracted. So yeah. Let's see. Clicking on some doodads over here. 747 is the peak. That is a new record, by the way, we have, but we didn't hit 800 yet. So I think some grandmas are still trying to figure out how to log on through the iPad, so that's all right. Let's see here. Is there a brand of aquarium products that I completely avoid? I don't think so, but let me think about that. I think everyone makes something halfway decent and passable. I'm trying to think of something where I'm like, oh man, that's really bad. I don't think I can think of it though, because like every company's got something, and it might not be the best, but I wouldn't like straight up avoid it. I wouldn't say like, oh, you own that? Oh god, it's gonna burn your house down. I'd be like, oh well, yeah, let's use what you got and keep going. So what do I think about using an ozone generator in an aquarium? I personally think it's pretty overkill for the average hobbyist. I'd much rather use live plants or refugium to kind of accomplish the same thing. I'm not super confident, as I haven't actually run one myself, that it doesn't lead to some of that stuff actually getting into the water column. I've seen people run them. I've seen them used at zoos, or not zoos, well, zoos and aquariums and stuff, but I think it's a super technical way that most aquariums probably will never utilize, and yeah, I would play with one, though, for sure. I would play with one because I love to learn about stuff. So, let's see here. Corey, I'll be at your birthday party at the store. Really look forward to stealing your attention for a minute to show you my tanks. I'll be there. You got me for 2 hours. And I know people are always like, why only 2 hours? Well, all my employees planned this after I already had plans. So I was like, well, I can give you from noon to 2, but I got plans after that, unfortunately. So, but I'll be there, and I'll be eating cake. My cake's gonna be there, which is Costco cake. It's got to be cold. I'm very particular. Warm cake, terrible. Cake's got to be cold, and it's chocolate with raspberry in it. It's gonna be good times. Michael Johnston says, what are your thoughts on Joey's new fish gallery, especially his planned new filtration room? I didn't see the part about the filtration. I saw that it's got the heat recovery system, and he's going to put water heater and stuff in there. I don't know if I saw the actual room dedicated to filtration, but in general, I think it's awesome. I'm super jealous of his building space where he's got the roll around carts and the table. That's super cool. I like that he's got the fans going in between rooms. That's also super cool. And you know, he's gonna have a giant aquarium, so it's gonna be cool. In general, I'm excited. I watched that video start to finish, but I don't remember seeing, you know, maybe we're just calling it something different, but that kind of closet area with all that stuff, I thought it was mostly going to be quarantine and that stuff, not so much filtration, but I may be misunderstanding there. But yeah, I watched that whole video because I love to watch the building process and all that kind of stuff. I love it. So yeah, I'm nerding out on that. Let's see. What's my obsession with grandmas? Mostly I just think they're the most unlikely candidates to be watching me, and so I'm trying to build up that, you know, that over 70 demographic. Oh man. Oh, we're after 6. I could answer this question. What is my thoughts on African dwarf frogs? I think they're pretty fun. I like them as population control. Feed them lots of frozen bloodworms. Let's see here. Thoughts on overfiltration? So I already think we're already overfiltering probably, Derek. And so overfiltration, I think, is a waste of money if it's not buying you peace of mind. So if you put another filter on your tank and then you still worry about it, that was money not well spent. But if you couldn't sleep, and by putting another filter on it, now you rest at night and you feel really safe about your aquarium, that's money well spent because you're buying that peace of mind. Let's see. What is the closest taco place that I like that's to my store that I recommend? Probably Taco Time. They use the freshest ingredients out of places that are around my store, and I always have to put the sour cream or the ranch. They have like a sour cream ranch stuff that's got to go on it. Super good. Otherwise, I find tacos without sour cream or ranch to be a little bit dry, typically. Let's see here. Can I do a collaboration with Joey from the King of DIY? Doors always open. Anyone's welcome to approach me with a collaboration. I've actually got one with someone else going on at the end of the month. You guys see me collab with a lot of people, but you know, it's the hardest part is lining up schedules. That's always been the hardest part is someone goes, well, I got class I got to go to. And then the next person's like, well, I'm going to be out of town. And I'm going to be out of town. And then, well, I've got to be at the shop. I can't do it then. And then I've got to do this. And so, especially like if it's going to be on the live stream or something, a lot of people spend Sundays with their family. And so, you know, it can be hard. But yeah, who knows what the future holds. Let's see. Sorry if this was covered earlier, but have you discussed natural filtration with only plants in a sump that are lit at night and the plants are in the display tank on the opposite photocycle? So I didn't discuss having opposite photo periods, but what that does, it basically lets you consume waste 24 hours a day, which can be useful. I think in a sump, I would probably try running more algae scrubbers and stuff like that. I really want to play with more of that. I've only really dabbled in it, unfortunately. You know, I would say that, yeah, it's just a place I haven't experimented, so I'm naturally drawn to it. And so plants, I think you're going to be able to absorb most of that stuff in the actual main tank. And so it's like an afterthought. But an algae scrubber, I do want to play with it. So yeah. So this got deleted, but I'm going to let it go. It's Not Butter says, Corey, this topic's completely irrelevant, but did you ever get bullied about my teeth in school? I have snaggle teeth very similar to yours, and people always give me crap about it. So no, I never got anything like that in school. I don't know why. You know, I think I'm kind of an easygoing guy, and I never had to worry about that. Maybe bullying is worse now than it was back then. Like, I don't know. But in general, I think a lot of it is how you take it. If you let it get to you, it's way worse than if you just go, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that guy. You know, kind of shrug it off and, you know, stuff like that. I think people, like if I didn't have teeth problem and you didn't have teeth problem, they would find something else. Like either people want to hate on you or not. And so if you didn't have, let's say a problem with your teeth, then it's you've got red hair, or you've got this, or you've got that, you got a big nose, or you got, a lazy eye, or you got, people in general are just looking for something to hate on, and you're more sensitive about that. Like, I probably am more sensitive about it. Like, if someone said, Corey, you have the dumbest business I've ever seen. Like, I would look at them like, what are you, stupid? Like, I'm successful. But when they say that about my teeth, I'm like, oh, well, true. I got messed up teeth. So I think we're just overly sensitive to a topic like that. And what the problem is, it resonates with you. And that's, you try to let that stuff go and just realize, like, if it wasn't that, it'd be something else. They'd be making fun of my shoes or making fun of my whatever. Your mom is dumb, or, they're just looking to hate. Got a super chat, though, from Jeff Wilson. What's your beef with burritos? I got no beef with burritos. Burritos are amazing. It's that soft tacos are burritos and they're not tacos. So I eat burritos, don't get me wrong, especially deep fried burritos. Yeah, you can call it a chimichanga, but like Taco Time, they just deep fry their burritos. Delish. So it's kind of like I'm rolling up a taco, making it crunchy and eating it. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with a burrito. In fact, if you guys are on my Instagram and stuff, probably a month and a half ago back, you guys watched me eat a burrito as I did a live stream on the Instagram. So there's no burrito hate. It's mostly that tacos are meant to be crunchy. I need that in a shirt. That's all I know. Do I like fajitas? Well, first, I call them fajitas. But yes, fajitas are good and tasty as well. There's not too much Mexican food I don't like. But, you got to kind of rank them, in orders of priority. And crunchy tacos are just up there because they're super available for me. Smerrill Reviews says, hey, what are your opinions on sponge filters with power heads attached? So, if you use a fine sponge, they're going to clog up fairly often, but they're going to keep that water super crystal clear. And then if you use a coarse sponge, typically can go much, much longer. Very good at biological filtration. I think it's a valid thing. I've done it, and I've watched people stack up sponges, and you can do them in ponds, and you can do all kinds of stuff. So I think it's a good thing. Let's see here. What filter should I get for a 55-gallon other than a sponge filter? My recommendation would probably be a hang-on back, if you like that. If you don't like it, then, choose something else. Choose what you like. That's the important thing. Choose what you like. Choose what you think you'll like. Let's see. Stephanie Ball says, the first Aquarium Co-op video I watched, you were wearing the taco hat. I can't believe I kept watching. Well, it's good. I mean, I need to break that taco hat out again one of these days. It's just right on the other side. I've been meaning to get it on a shelf or something. The stream has gone from filtration to tacos and burritos. I think that always happens. Joel, thanks for the super chat, says, hey Corey, how are the summer stock tanks going? So, I've just now started getting them going. In fact, I've filmed some of it with the camera, and I haven't made a whole lot of progress on it yet because it's been raining a lot still, but I can say this, the first 275-gallon tote is outside, and I was doing some measuring, and I'm going to be doing some ordering soon, and then we're going to be doing some building after that. And so I definitely have some plans, and I want to do it. And my whole goal this time is to devise a system to keep some fish out year-round, because that's what makes me lose the motivation. Like, oh, well, I got a late start because I was busy. Oh, well, there's only a month and a half left. I might as well screw it. I'll do it next year. And pretty soon I've been doing that for too many years in a row. But I was able to nerd out. So last night I was sleeping on my couch because the house remodel, right? So I'm just there on my phone, and I was researching the R value of dirt, and then different polystyrenes and stuff like that, figuring out how am I going to insulate these things. And who knew that wet dirt is different R values than non-wet dirt, and turns out dirt is a horrible insulator. And then if you bury the ponds too deep, it's actually hard to get them warm enough. They don't get too cold, but they also don't get too warm. And so, been nerding out on it, so I'm enjoying it. My wife says don't forget chimichangas and quesadillas and tortilla chips. Alright, anyway, Corey, my first video of yours was a 2-hour sponge filter. I loved it. Any changes on your suggestions? I don't think so. I mean, I think it covered it pretty good. And I haven't fallen out of love with any of them or anything like that. And there's been no, like, there's not really been any, like, revolutionary technology developed for a sponge filter. So it's not like I can say, like, oh man, now this one's out and it's the best. Like, they're pretty much just the same thing still. So, yeah. What are some intermediate sized air pumps I can recommend? I think, dollar to ratio, the 4-port pump from Petco. I think they're like $26. They burn out anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, but you get a lot of use out of them. So I think that's kind of that middle range. Okay, I've got the itchiest nose ever. I don't know what's going on here, but this has got to stop. Like, it's out of control. All right, hopefully that's gonna do it, because I can't sit here. I can't think and help you guys and then go like, this itch is gonna take me out. I'm gonna die to this itch. Anyway, so time to break into the water. Thoughts on corner Matten filters? I've never run one in a corner. I've only run them on the side of the tank. Long term, I didn't like them. I'm willing to investigate them again, because why I didn't like them is because they trap so much debris. And at the time, I was convinced debris is bad. Now, if I was to use them, I'm not necessarily sure that I'm convinced that debris is bad. And so then they don't really have that problem. So, that's kind of the funny thing, right? Is like 5 years ago, that's a horrible problem in my life. And oh my God, it's going to kill everything. And 5 years later, I could care less. And now I reevaluate that same piece of equipment going, maybe it is fine, All right, let's get back into it here. It's been 8 years since I had Taco Time. You're making me miss them. They don't exist here in the South. I'm surprised they're still alive. I feel like you need to take your next vacation to a Taco Time. Let's be real. Let's see. Where'd that go? I hate when I start reading a comment and then it goes by, because I feel like it's like, oh man, I wanted to do that. Pretty Princess Ariel says, Corey, say hi to my channel. There you go. That was easy enough. That's not the one I was trying, but yeah. Corey I would worry you would die of hunger in Australia, because you have very few Mexican places and zero fast food Mexican places. Yeah, but you've got sausage rolls and you've got meat pies and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, just because I love Mexican food, there's no shortage of Corey eating food. Like, I love a lot of different foods. And so yeah. In my opinion, what's the most overrated fish in the hobby and most underrated? Most underrated, it's easy. The white cloud. The most overrated, that's a little bit harder, because everyone's got their own... Well, I mean, that other thing was an opinion too, but just because I don't like a fish doesn't mean it's overrated. I'm trying to think of something that I think is purely just overrated. Geez, there's got to be something. And I don't want to just, pull some move that's kind of a cop-out. What is it? Maybe, if I have to pick one off the top of my head, panda loaches. I think those are really overrated, because they only look cool for a short amount of time. And then they look pretty blah, and they're really expensive, they're kind of fragile, and I didn't want to cop out and just say like Oscars or common plecos or this or that. I wanted to think of something that maybe people hadn't said before. So I was sleeping on the couch because the dogs told me to. It's true. Dogs run my life. A gross of hard-shell tacos being shipped to Aquarium Co-op. Let me know when it arrives. I'll be there. Love it. Where are my totes from? The ones I got them on Craigslist, and they, I try to make sure they weren't used for like the craziest toxic thing ever. Mostly like, oh, this one's stored, like I did one was a plant fertilizer, which I was taking a risk with that one, worked out fine. Other ones, I got some that were like being used for like wine production or something like that. That seemed pretty Yahtzee for me. I figure, one was storing like alcohol and stuff, so that was great. I was like, it's pretty much already sterile. Great. $5 super chat from Bed Lambkin. Thank you. No comment there, but I'll assume I know that you secretly meant to write tacos are awesome. So thank you for that. Bring back the taco hat. Hashtag. $150 for a 100-gallon Rubbermaid stock tank with free shipping. Is it worth it? Yes. I was going to say $150 sounds like a lot, but it's being shipped? Oh yeah, because you can get them for about $100 without shipping. But if they're going to ship that thing to you for $150, deal. And why I like the Rubbermaids, they're going to last forever. So if you buy that now, 10 years, you still have it. 20 years, you still have it, and it'll be in great shape. So, you know, they're made to take a beating. Good investment, I think. Have I ever done gravel-capped potting soil in a planted tank? Is it worth it, or is it better? I have done it. I've done it a few times. I've helped friends do it. Is it worth it? Depends on what you're trying to do, possibly. As you see now, I don't really do it, so I don't give it that much value. If you're going to do it, only do like a 1/4 inch, the very thinnest layer, because everyone thinks more is better. So you're going, well, I bought this whole bag. Like, why not put more in? The reality is, if you only have a 1/4 inch, you still grow plants really well. You get less tannins in the water. You get less ammonia spike when you're cycling. And when you uproot that plant, only a tiny little bit of dirt comes out, as opposed to like, oh, geez, that thing's really clouded now. So that's my advice from me doing it. I learned that the less dirt I put in, the better my tanks went overall. And, you know, being American, more is better, dang it. Let's see. I'm trying to breed Emerald Dwarf Rasboras outside in a 30-gallon pond. Do you recommend I use a sponge filter? Yes, I would use a sponge filter. Don't use any mechanical filtration. I should open a store in the Tri-Cities, Washington area. We want to see more of you on the east side of the state, brother. I want to travel. I want to go see Pleco Barbie's store. I think it's Aquarium Solutions. And then Fish Fanatics, Don. I want to go visit him, too. So I don't know if either of those stores are within driving distance or if you know about them. But I at least like the people that own those stores. I haven't been to the stores, so I can't comment on that. But, yeah. What are we talking about? We're talking about jalapenos? Yeah, they're not jalapenos. They're jalapenos. Flynn knows what's up. Canadians, jalapenos. What's the difference between inexpensive and expensive canister filters for the same size tank? So, in very general terms, I would say quality of materials, possibly, and that's not always guaranteed. Sometimes it's being UL rated or not. That's kind of an important thing for some people. And then it comes down to brand. Like if you're, you know, a high-end brand, you sell things for expensive. And there's people that think I spend more money, I get a better product. There's people that want the cheapest product. So a lot of times brands are trying to accommodate different groups of people. But the reality is it should come down to how much surface area am I going to get for my dollar, and then will this last as long as I need to last. So, you know, a $10 filter that breaks tomorrow is a horrible deal. But a $50 filter that lasts the next 10 years and maybe you get rid of that tank by then, that's a good deal. Whereas a $500 filter that lasts 50 years but you only keep a fish tank for 10 years, that's kind of a waste, right? How about taco rice? Taco rice can be really good depending on who's making it. Some places it's an afterthought and you're like, yeah, it's rice, I guess. And then you get other places where you're like, whoa, this rice, I don't need it. The rest of the stuff that's on the plate, the rice is the best part. But so often, you know, if you go to Mexican, the rice is the worst thing on the plate. That's the worst. So a lot of times I actually ask, no rice, extra refried beans, please. Just because I've eaten at the place before and their rice is not good. Whereas there's a place near us that's got wicked good rice, but we don't go there that often. I don't know why. Guacamole or sour cream? If I have to choose one, sour cream. In a perfect world where I'm rich, $2.50. And let me ask this. Someone answer this question. I'll never understand this in the world. Why is it that like sour cream and guacamole at a Mexican restaurant is $2.50? It's like the same price as the drink. Where did this start and why does it exist? Now I realize a lot of times in a Mexican restaurant you're getting the thicker sour cream, which is delicious by the way. But why is it that if I want sour cream and guacamole to hit my $14 plate of food, it's another $2.50? It seems insane when I can go home or go to the store and buy like a container of sour cream and I could buy like a thing made of guacamole and it would cost me like $3, and yet I got like 40 tablespoons of it. That's what I want to know. I want to know where it got started. Like, who decided, oh yeah, we'll give them great food, but the minute they want that sour cream and that guacamole, that's where we get them. Gotcha. Yes, pray for Mojo. You definitely gotta call stuff like, Trailer Park Boys, quesadillas, and then jalapenos. Yeah, jalapenos. Mm-hmm. I speak the same amount of Spanish and the same as you. Yep. I speak fluent Taco Bell. Yeah. Rant alert for sure. Flynn got it. Oh man. Can we get your T-shirt globally? They overcharge for guac and sour cream because it's the best. Yeah, but it seems like someone out there would be like, oh man, here we go. I'm gonna make my guacamole $1, and I'm gonna make a ton of money. Currently, no global on the T-shirt. Working on figuring that out. In fact, Amazon, once we run out of stock, we're not restocking. It's not profitable. It's not working out. There's so much paperwork and stuff like that going on that we're gonna have to shut that down. It's just not a good thing. So we'll keep looking at it. Maybe I can do like Steve Poland, by the way. If you don't know his channel, check him out. He's got a thing where it's shipping out shirts and stuff like that. Maybe I can set up some of that'll do global shipping for shirts. I don't know. Like I'm trying to solve a problem that even giant corporations can't solve. So it's I kind of try something and go, oh, that was a train wreck. Well, I'm gonna have to discontinue that. But I'm working on it. I promise. Proteus says, is it bad that I've never had tacos? No, it's not bad. You just haven't started your life yet. One day you'll start your life and you'll realize that you had this time before you ate a taco, and then you had the rest of your life. You just haven't started yet. It's no big deal. Corey, I found the flow rate as a big thing between cheap and expensive, plus the more expensive seems to be almost silent. So yeah, there are different things, but for instance, Eheim tends to be one of the most expensive brands, and the flow rate is really low compared to Eheim, or compared to Fluval. Fluval has very high flow rates and is cheaper. But yes, noise is a consideration, build quality, warranty, what comes in. Does it come with media? Doesn't it? There's a lot of things. Lucas Lagoon says, is your employees ever on the channel? Soon. Like I know, well I think Kaylee wants to come on. I don't know if Robert or Ali wants to come on, but I know Kaylee wants to hang out while I'm building the ponds and stuff, so she was like, hey, I'll come nerd out. And I said, well, maybe we'll do that. And so maybe, yeah. I thought this room was too small for 2 people, but the fact that we fit Bob in here, we can pretty much fit 15 to 20 other people here at the same time. Normal people, not like giant dudes like him. He dwarfs me, so. Guacamole, yuck! And the 250 thing exists in New Zealand, but only for guac. Yeah, it's crazy expensive. I don't know why. Superfish says, I've only had Taco Bell tacos. Am I missing much? Yes, you are. So Taco Bell tacos is like Wardley to normal fish food. Like it's almost the worst. So yeah. Guac is so expensive because avocados are expensive. Yeah, but avocados aren't that expensive. And even if you just want sour cream, $2.50 for sour cream, that's just insane. So, yeah. And so a lot of places do like $2.50 for the first thing. So like guac or sour cream, $2.50. Oh, you want both? $2.95. And so it's like, well, really, Anyway, enough with that. Let's see. Am I calling you fat, Bob? No. You're just the only guy I know that has a hashtag called Feed Bob. What can you do? Ooh, $5 super check coming through from Bedlamkin. 40 breeder with a 55 hang on back stuffed with the reticulated sponge. So that's going to be a coarse sponge. And Pete with a 20 sponge filter. What is your advice on cycling that for 4 dwarf cichlids? Let's see. Do you have any other tanks? If you do, I would drop like the sponge filter over another tank, cycle it there, then put the dwarf cichlids in with that sponge filter, and that'll get it going. If you only got 1 tank, then you could use like some fish food, let that break down. You could use a piece of shrimp maybe. You could buy pure ammonia, but that's what am I trying to say here? A little more advanced thing to do, but there's some few ways that you could do it. Let's see here. What is a good filter for a bed and a 10-gallon that isn't a sponge filter? Live plants. Trying to think of something else that's low enough flow. Maybe like an AquaClear 20 turned all the way down, maybe? Yeah. The big Bory boys throwing some shade. Me and Bob are gonna duke it out. I'm just saying, when me and Bob drive somewhere, it's actually he carries me in my own car. Because he doesn't fit in my car. He's a giant man. And I'm talking like straight up giant. Even when he's on a plane. Like, plane's not built for Bob. Car's not built for Bob. And dude's a giant. What can you do? I was telling him last night, we got to give him some of these aquarium racks I'm going to get rid of. Because I can't even touch them. And he's like, oh yeah? And he just like totally does it. So they're like built for a giant. That being said, the guy that had those built, he was a giant too. Before his fish room, he was a really tall, big guy too. And it makes sense why I can't touch it, because I'm not that. Matt Ford, what is my favorite type of cheese? I think my absolute favorite is Havarti. Yep. But almost any kind of smoked cheese, the better. Talk about why I hate Wardley. So here it is. This is a perfect example. Because I gotta hate on someone. Just like we're talking about teeth and shoes and your hair and that kind of stuff. If I'm going to talk bad about something, I'm going to choose the worst one in my opinion. That's Wardley. And it gives me something to hate on. Without that, like let's say Wardley doesn't exist, I would choose someone else. And that's just the way humans work. And so the reality is, they've been around for like 1 million years. They've probably done a bunch of good things for the hobby, but Corey's an idiot and likes to talk bad about something, and I picked that. So that's probably why. Hey Corey, have you been to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago? If you have, what are your thoughts? I haven't been yet, but we are planning to go when we go to Chicago this year. So, let's see. Who's Bob? Bob is Steenfod Aquatics. If that's a serious question, Patrick Neptune, you need to type in Steenfod Aquatics and subscribe to him. Not only am I on his channel pretty regularly, but he puts out his own good info, and he's got rad tanks, and he does cool stuff, and he's working on bringing back the Rick, which if you don't know who the Rick is, like, you got serious problems now. But yeah. Caleb says, how tall are you, Corey? I'm 5'10". Yeah. Can you have lava rock and a hang-on back? Sure. Any chance of showing us those awesome ponds you had going? Well, there's nothing in them right now, but yeah, I plan to get them all up and going again, yeah. Well, maybe not all of them, but definitely lots. How long is this live stream going? Probably till 7. Hopefully my wife is cooking right now, and food will magically appear right when I click done on this live stream. I hope. Why are we ripping on Bob? I don't know, because somehow it got started. I don't know why. I apologize, Bob. You're my buddy. You know it. Let's see here. I love Bob, even if the rest of you don't. You gotta love Bob. Ooh, we need like some kind of parody, like, you know, the What About Bob movie. We gotta do that with Bob. Please talk about 55-gallon freshwater. I want your opinion on live. If you talk about tacos for half an hour, please help me out. You need to ask a question there. Talking about 55-gallon freshwater, that's like so generic. Like, did you have a specific species, even a country, an aspect of a 55-gallon freshwater tank, I assume? We're missing the word tank, so I'm guessing we're talking about the tank. It's a perfectly fine footprint. You know, it's 4 feet long, 13 inches front to back, about 19 high. Yeah. Hey Corey, if you're wanting some pink flamingo crypts, there's some on eBay in a tissue culture. I bought some and they look great. Yeah, I just need to order some like wholesale or something like that. I do want some pink flamingo crypts though. You're right, Seth. I gotta get me some. Steenfod Aquatics, I'm like Tom Cruise, super short, but look tall on camera. Alright, alright. Then I must really be short then. I like the Aquarium Quiet Flows. Very good for the price, you think? I think when you hot rod them, they are. I think out of the box, they're a little weak. But if you hot rod them, for sure, great value. Yeah. Let's see here. Is sump filtration really easier to maintain, even for small tanks like a 55? I don't know about easier. It all depends on how it's set up. In my experience, it can be easier, but I'm not convinced that it's strictly just easier. So Blocks wants to know about a cheap tank, 55-gallon tank. I would say pick one up used on Craigslist would be cheap. Unfortunately, I'm hearing that the $1-a-gallon sale is not covering the 55 gallons this time around, and I think the reason why is because there's a shortage on annealed glass. What is annealed glass, you say? It's glass that's been like tempered. Well, no, not tempered, but it's hardened and not tempered. So that way we can drill through it and it still stays hard, right? But they're making them with tempered glass, and tempered glass I think costs more, and so that's why those two tanks aren't being covered. But I have seen on Facebook and stuff, people have gotten their Petcos to honor it anyway, so you might give it a try. Let's see. One of my Cory Ananias has a solid teardrop-shaped white mass at the base of its dorsal fin. When I Googled it, I found several other Corridoras with the same exact thing. Any ideas? So at the base of the dorsal fin, so on the back, if it's a little growth, I call those stress cysts. So it's like a cyst underneath the skin or in that skin of the dorsal fin. And usually the way I've been able to treat that is to put them in very stress-free environments. And you might go, oh, my tank's already like really stress-free. Well, try it even less stress-free. Maybe just move the corridors into a tank, feed them really well, change a lot of water, see if you can't heal that up over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. That's what I've found. It could also just be a tumor that will never go away, but, you know, you got to kind of play some diagnostics there. Let's see. My Petco's doing the 50% off the 45, or the 40, the 55, and 75 gallons. All right, all right. Let's see here. So Mr. Hundo TSA says, I know you understand business. Basically, avocados are produced entirely in California and Mexico, and the wholesale price fluctuates. They charge high on both to ensure the profit on the guac and the sour cream. Right, but so here's my question. Why not make guacamole $1.75 and make sour cream 75 cents? Right? Like, then I'm just happy. I just go, great, I want to order guacamole and order sour cream. Really, I just want sour cream. I order guac like 1 out of every 5 times. I just want sour cream that doesn't cost me $2.50. That's insane. Have I used XY380 sponge filters on Amazon? I think I've used one before. They're just basically knockoff brands of the Hikari sponges, so they're basically the same thing. Yeah, they're fine. Let's see here. Oh, that's where Bob gets his height. It's from his heels. He wears high heels, says Nisi. Let's see here. Ooh, here we go. This sounds technical, and you know, whenever something sounds technical, it sounds like it's got to be right. Dwayne Kitchell says the fish vet. He's got his own channel, the Fish Vet. He's got a video on it. It says it's a broken ray that has a fibrous mass holding it in place. All right, I can believe that. That sounds technical enough I could believe it. Doesn't mean it's right, but it just, whenever you say something really technical, like, oh man, it sounds like that's right. I have no idea. Let's see. Would Kui Loaches be fine on regular aquarium gravel that isn't too sharp with 7 Harlequin reservoirs and a 10-gallon? Yes. I believe I answered a question very similar to that on my comments earlier today. Let's see. Can anyone else see Cory sneaking in a tub of sour cream to the restaurant? So I don't do that. I do pack up most of my food and take it home and add sour cream, though. You better believe that. I am that frugal. My wife, because she is perfect for me, she actually will pipe the sour cream onto my nachos and stuff. So like you'd pipe icing, because she's a baker, right? She'll put sour cream in there and like put it all over my food and make it awesome. Sometimes she'll write my name on it. I've got like nachos that say like congratulations on this many subscribers and stuff like that. What was the last one? I didn't even notice. She did one and I didn't even notice and I felt bad afterwards. But yeah, I'm a horrible person. It just shows that my wife is awesome to me like all the time. And so I miss it sometimes. And that it makes me a douche. Thoughts on Aqua Advisor online stocking calculator for aquarium planning. My thoughts are I've only ever used it like twice just to play around with it, so I don't know. I haven't like examined to see how accurate it is. But in general, I think people that come into my store that say, well, it says I can do this, I find it to be very conservative, which is a good thing, but people take it as like it's a law, and I think I can take it way further, but it's a good starting point, probably, yeah. Can I answer Flynn's question? I probably could. Let's see. If my tank is slightly overstocked, guppy mutt tank, and I put another sponge filter in the tank, would bacteria equally colonize on both filters, or would the old one have more forever? So that's a good question. I don't know that specific instance there, because I don't know that it will necessarily die off here and repopulate there. That I can't prove because I don't have a way to prove it. What I would suspect, this is what I suspect, is that eventually this will start getting clogged up a little bit, and some of the bacteria will be compromised, and it will grow over here. Or if you go service, let's say you clean both sponges, I think at that point you've kind of reset them a little bit, and you will get more bacteria equalizing out. But this is all conjecture. I can't prove any of that. What are my thoughts on the Aquatop cancer filters? I think they're a good value. The ones with the UV I like quite a bit, if you're not hard on the clips. The clips are easily broken, and a lot of people break them that way. So, have I ever used Beamworks light? I have. I've done some reviews on them. I think they're cheap lights, but they use a lot of power, and usually I want LEDs so that they don't use a lot of power. Adam says, what do I mean by hot rodding a filter? So that usually means increasing the surface area. So you might put a sponge on the intake where it sucks the water in. You might fill up all of the area in the back of your hang-on back. It might be all of your baskets in the canister. Might be using all the space in your sump, but utilizing it to maximum efficiency. Let's see. The Creek Kid says, I've got a 10-gallon tank with an Aqueon 10 hang-on back, not hot-rodded. I have 7 guppies. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are probably, filter or not, the gravel would probably handle something as few as 7 guppies. So you're probably just A-okay, wouldn't worry about it. Let's see. When is your B-Day? And, whoa. Oh, tacos have arrived. And the meetup for my fans. We can put that over here, I suppose.
Do I get to eat one in here?
Oh, you get to eat one too?
I just made one for myself.
Oh.
The other ones are
So the meetup is at my store on Saturday, the 15th. My birthday is actually the 14th.
You're not supposed to tell people that. Then they can steal your identity.
Yeah, they could probably figure it out anyway. So yeah, now you can steal my identity. And I'm so distracted by tacos, I can't think of what else I'm trying to say.
Birthday stuff and what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll be there from noon to 2. That's pretty much it. I got 18 minutes. I could probably eat some of this
I thought you'd want like a bite.
And do this. Corridora eggs on the side of the tank. What should I do so they hatch? You want to harvest them with like a credit card or something like that, and hatch them outside. Maybe use methylene blue or something like that to keep them from fungusing. This is what I'm hoping it's going to be crunchy. This is what I like to hear. If you don't make a mess while you're eating it, it's not good.
Would you like me to tell you some questions?
Sure.
Let's see. Tacos. Tacos for everyone. Tacos have arrived.
Those aren't questions.
Corridor eggs on the side of the tank. What should I do so they hatch?
I literally just answered
that. Let's see. How do you service all the filters in your fish room? Do you do it all on the same day? How often?
So almost never do I service them. I do it like once every 6 months. And I do as many as I can do before my hand cramps up. So I've done it for so many years and at stores that I have like sponge wrist, as I call it. Like, it's like getting tennis elbow, right? You do this motion. You just keep cranking on it.
It's like milking a cow.
You just keep doing that. And after like the 20th sponge filter, Lamont was getting it too because he'd been doing it for a couple years at my store. It was starting, it builds up. It gets you right here, like right in this tendon, this action where it keeps flexing it. It gets sore in there. And then you go, I can't do any more today. And so yeah, I've had good luck with only servicing them, the coarse ones like that often. And that's why I've had some tanks that went years without servicing the sponge filter, but they were almost natural planted tanks, so to speak.
Okay, would nyrite snails be good with Maltese?
They could probably take the brunt of it. I bet you. I like Malaysian trumpet snails better for that.
Ooh, real Mr. Faceman. It's his birthday too on the 14th.
Awesome.
Birthday buddies.
Mm-hmm.
What size are the tanks in your store and your fish room? What are the main ones that you do? 20s?
As a store in the fish room, probably mostly 20s and 40s. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's a good filter for a 10-gallon tank? I need it to be pretty quiet.
I would do the Fluval U1. So that's the internal filter, real quiet, love it. It's basically just a sponge and a little motor.
There's no everything else is just tacos.
Oh, well, tacos are good. Let's scroll down.
Okay, Corey, would you ship shirts to UK? Blah blah blah. We already talked about that. It's really hard to right now. Basically, correct.
If you pay the shipping, which is like $50, we could probably pull it off. Kaylee will probably do it.
Someone says you need to get a bowling brace for your.
It's about right. But then you got fish poop stuck under your bowling brace. Like, there's nothing worse than fish poop under your bowling brace, let me tell you.
Oh, what are your thoughts on Tetra Safe Start?
Not a huge fan of it. Live plants are a lot better. To jumpstart a tank with bacteria. I like the Seachem. My brain can't work. Stability better. And best of all would be the Turbo Start by Fritz, because actually has to stay in the fridge.
Do you know the pore size of your sponge in your filters?
Yeah, the PPI is I prefer to use 20 PPI.
You actually know that?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well,
you
the
just made
typical
my brain
ones,
explode.
the typical ones like the fine filters are 30 PPI, pores per square inch, and then they make them all the way down to 10 PPI, but they're so coarse that I don't get any added benefit. So I want as many pores as I can get while retaining all the benefits, and 20 PPI does that for me.
We just missed a bunch of questions. Sorry, guys. That's what happens when we're eating tacos.
Yeah.
What's your top 5 community fish?
Top 5. Okay. Corridoras, they're in there. Guppies are in there. Maybe not together, but they're in there. I don't know if plecos make it.
You're killing me.
I don't know yet.
Oh my god.
Let's see, what else?
What are those things that we put outside for the summer?
White clouds?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably up there. White clouds, especially gold white clouds, I like, and longfin. I gotta get 2 more. I really like shrimp, even though it's not a fish. I'm calling it shrimp.
It's the same thing. It was underwater.
And then one more. I gotta get one more. What would I do? Snails. I love snails. Yeah. All right. Grab another question while I eat.
Let's see. Nisi's gone. Bye, Nisi. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What are your thoughts on the Bio Home Ultra?
So.
Media. I guess
I don't think it works the way we use it. If you put it in your canister filter, by design, it's meant to get really high flow, and it's not going to go anaerobic, I don't believe. That being said, I don't have a way to test it, but in the ways in which we're using it, I don't think it goes anaerobic. I would believe it if you put it under gravel or something like that, it would do it, or it was much thicker, maybe. But I've been reading up on even like live rock and saltwater aquariums, and there's studies shown that the water doesn't flow very well through it at all, so it's mostly like little worms and stuff that's moving the water in and out of those pores to the anaerobic spots. So I don't know yet, but I do know I haven't used a lab to analyze it.
Mabu isn't necessarily a community fish. That's why Corey didn't say it. Someone said, "Are you kidding me? No Mabu."
Right. Mabu puffers can't live with everything because, like, Corridoras can get eaten on accident sometimes, for instance.
Someone said that one of your employees said the 125-gallon was too small for 2 Oscars.
Yeah. I watched that thing, and I would have corrected him if I thought it was wrong, but a 125-gallon tank is only 18 inches front to back, and you can grow an Oscar pretty much to 16 or so inches. In general, Oscars would appreciate larger tanks.
What should I do with my 55-gallon tank? I want a peaceful tank. Maltese.
They're not peaceful.
Well, aren't they shell dwellers? Aren't those the shellies?
Yeah, but they're like deadly.
Why? They're awesome. They're super cute.
If you only keep those.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Well, if you keep a colony of them, sure, but almost any fish can be that way.
Yeah, but Maltese are awesome.
They are.
If you guys have never seen multis with babies and watch them eat, they look like those, what are those, not Smurfs, snorks?
Snorks, yeah.
Yeah, they look like snorks when they eat bloodworms. It's like one of the cutest things you'll ever see in your entire life, no joke. You have to agree with that.
What's a cheap 55-gallon setup? Go buy the 55-gallon setup from Walmart. It's about $200. You're set up, you get a light, you get filter, and then, slowly replace all the parts to make it better.
How rough can you get with a sponge without disturbing the bacteria?
I think really rough. I don't think you can really... You don't want to let it sit out without being wet, but as long as it stays wet, I think you're fine.
Let's see. What sponge filter would be good for a 10-gallon shrimp tank?
One that's like this big. So it doesn't have to be very big. Like, shrimp produce such a low load, you're mostly just wanting like an air stone and some plants, honestly.
Is Bob's promo code still good, or did you block it from him because he said soft tacos?
I should.
I just made that up.
I should, but no, it's still good. Big Steen. Big Steen is what it is.
So Christian's Aquariums, it's still good.
Mm-hmm. That's the sign of a good taco. I have grease and sour cream on my hand.
Do you need me to get you now? Can you get that?
No, that's what I got a
You're
mouth
just gonna
for.
lick it all. You are. Okay. Good filter for Amazon puffer. I know you know how messy they are when they eat.
I mean, it's all just surface area, right? So it's one Amazon puffer. Like, any hang-on back's going to cover it. So if your tank's a 20-gallon tank, it's only one Amazon puffer. A hang-on back that handles a 20 is going to handle it. Make sure you got an intake sponge. Make sure you've got enough media in the back. And, yeah.
I just bought water Sprite for my tank, so my live bear fry will have a spot to survive. However, I also have nyrite snails. Did I just buy food for my nyrite snails?
No, nyrite snails don't eat plants. They'll be safe. Yeah, you'll be fine.
What was that snail you said on your last update that you said ate all their plants?
That was a rabbit snail, and it ate...
I'm trying to remember.
It ate my dwarf Sagittaria, but didn't touch my Anubias or anything like that. It's only the dwarf Sag that love to eat.
So it just must love fancy food.
Yeah.
Why don't you have shell dweller cichlids anymore? It's because he wants to make me cry.
I don't know. Mostly I just don't have any right now. I mean, I've got albino Julidachromis, which technically are a shell dweller, but reasonably close to it.
Let's keep going because we answered all these.
I mean, I own shelldwellers.com. What a lot of you guys don't realize is when you go like, why don't you keep this? Like, I've kept so much stuff that if I didn't fall in love with it, like, why keep it again? That's kind of what it comes down to.
I miss Pangasius, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah?
Let's see, we answered. Hold on. Why is one of my mystery snails so lazy? He's not dead. I did the sniff test. He only comes out for like 20 minutes a day, then goes back into his shell. What could I do to get him to be more active? Flynn, sing to him.
What else in the tank, Flynn? Is he getting harassed by guppies or anything like that? Sometimes if they get harassed on their antennas, they just fold back up and they only come out enough just to eat and then they close back up. So maybe it's getting harassed by something. And even tetras and stuff like that, it's not like damage is being done, but enough just to be like, get away, I'm just going to hold up in my shell.
Are there any plants that look completely different when they're grown out of water?
Most, yeah. I would say most plants are that way. One of the biggest transformations I've ever seen is Vesuvius, which is actually a sword plant, which it doesn't look like a sword plant. Everyone thinks it's a val. And then the other one is Pogostemon erectus. And it looks way different, in my opinion.
Do you want me to leave?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
We're done in 7 minutes.
How hard is a fully enclosed ecosystem to pull off?
So I don't know, because I haven't done enough of it yet. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, but at the same time, that's famous last words, right? Like, turns out it's really hard. But a full closed ecosystem, I think is really hard. If you're talking about never, like, you have to collect the evaporative water and stuff like that, so you never put water back into something, I think that's pretty difficult to pull off. With some addition of water and outside food, for instance, if you're not feeding at all, it can be really hard.
Any advice on dry starting baby tears?
Any advice on dry starting baby tears? Flood it with a lot of CO2 when you finally do flood it with water. So BS BSNGA says, Biohome Ultra is working great for me and my canister filter. So here would be my question, and I've yet to ever have a single person answer this for me. How much have you measured that it can eat of nitrates? So that's the whole point of Biohome, is that it grows denitrifying bacteria. So it will consume nitrates. Everyone says it works great, and what they're actually experiencing is it's converting ammonia into nitrates, which anything can do that. But Biohome, what's magical about it is it's supposed to consume nitrates, which almost no one's monitoring on any given level. And so how do you know it's working amazing? If you do, I would love to see, like, here's the results. I did this. I measured every day. My Biohome finally cycled at the 6-month mark, and I was sitting at 50 nitrates every week. And then it started going to 54, or going down to 44, and then it was down to 40 and stuff like that. I would love to see that, because then it's been proven, and then I would have a lot more confidence in it. But I've never seen anyone do that kind of stuff yet. And instead, they're attributing it's working great to it's not killing my fish, when the reality is like, well, I haven't seen anyone prove that it's actually digesting nitrates.
What are your thoughts on Seachem Purigen?
I
can't remember if we answered that one.
We haven't answered that. My thoughts are it's a fine product for absorbing basically organic and non-organic compounds. I don't use any of it in any of my tanks. We sell a ton of it because African cichlid people especially love it. They want to get the clearest water possible. You can use it to take out tannins. It would absorb, paint fumes. It would absorb medicines, that kind of stuff. It's got a leg up over carbon because it won't absorb, at least Seachem's fertilizer, and probably all fertilizer it won't absorb, but they only have tested it with Seachem's lines, and it is made not to do that, so. Let's see. Good filtration for a 120-gallon Planet tank. I probably would use like an AquaClear 110, the biggest hang-on back, and then maybe a power head or circulation or two.
Any thoughts on plants for a 55 with no CO2?
I would say most plants you could probably do. It depends on the light, really.
If we can scroll up a little bit, we might find it.
I don't need to find it. I'm just
okay.
answering it. So like Anubias, Java ferns obviously are easy. Lots of crypts are going to be easy. Stem plants like water sprite, bacopa, moneywort, even pennywort, stuff like that, all pretty easy.
There's the answer for that one right there.
What's the question?
It was the BC and GA who's talking about that stuff being awesome for his tank.
Okay. I don't understand what you're saying, though.
I thought that was his answer to your question.
Measurable nitrates is 0 in my 29-gallon tank. Cycle kicked in at 4 weeks. So then you have no live plants and you have no gravel over an inch, because you can also consume nitrates that way, and then you wouldn't want to do any water changes also. But no, if it's doing it, great. I'm glad to hear that. Let's see here. What are my thoughts on API fish food? I don't think I have thoughts. I was thinking Aqueon, but I don't think I've used it. So I don't know if I have many thoughts on it, unfortunately. I know they tried to get me to carry the whole line, and I didn't want to do it. But other than that, I don't think I tested it very much.
I ordered some Monte Carlo and got dwarf baby tears. Instead, they're adamant that it's Monte Carlo. It's a highlight, low-tech setup, and I don't want to use pressurized CO2. Can I still grow it with liquid CO2?
No, liquid CO2 is not a replacement for CO2. And in fact, today on Facebook, Karen Randall released an article about the dangers of liquid CO2, glutaraldehyde / Excel, all that. And, she's kind of one of the queens of the planet hobby, and I've been saying this kind of stuff for a long time, that Excel and glutaraldehyde is an algaecide, not a replacement for CO2. And she kind of breaks it down a little more on why it's not and stuff like that. But and she brings up the fact that glutaraldehyde is dangerous for humans, and you guys have heard me talk about that. And they hypothesize that maybe Excel is a different molecule chain and maybe less toxic, but they haven't been able to prove it either. So, for now, kind of think of Excel as dangerous, and glutaraldehyde, which is like my version of Excel that we sell, is, they're both glutaraldehyde, but Seachem says they've changed the molecular structure slightly, which no one can confirm or deny. That's just fancy ways of saying, like, well, you guessed what it is, but it's not actually that. You know, kind of like smoke and mirrors. But yeah, it's dangerous. Don't get in your eyes, that type of thing. It is an algicide, and you should use it as such. Let's see.
Have you ever used lava rock for a gravel substrate? Can you plant plants with it?
I haven't done it yet, but I want to try it. They used to make it, and I don't know where, but it was like crushed up lava rock. It was pretty small, and I think it would work great because it should be able to let the fertilizer into it and stuff like that. But it might have a hard time, like Val might have a hard time spreading, or Crips, but I'm not sure. It might work out just fine, honestly.
What's the best water tester, or what do you use to test your water?
I use the test strips, and actually Tuesday's video is the test kit versus test strip shootout. So there's going to be a lot of info on that. So I won't waste your time here. What time is it where I live? 7 o'clock. We're done, unfortunately. So it's only 7 o'clock here, probably 10 o'clock for a lot of you guys. So yeah. So they said Excel is more diluted than others on the market. That's true. Well, I don't know if that's true, Racing, but like my version is an exact same thing as Excel. There probably are people that sell glutaraldehyde. So like glutaraldehyde in itself is very toxic, so you have to dilute it down. But there probably are versions out there, I have no idea, that are twice the strength of Excel, and they probably like use that as a bonus, like twice as powerful, get twice for your money or whatever. And I've seen like in the local clubs and stuff, them have like, here's this, you know, like they'll sell this full of glutaraldehyde, dose this, reduce it by water by 10 parts. And so this itself is very toxic. And, you know, if people don't know that and they're dosing at 10 times the strength, that could be a real problem. So, hey, Korean wife, will there be more Lamont Goldfish t-shirts coming back in stock? I believe there will be. I haven't ordered them up yet. I've got...
Phew, because I didn't get one yet.
I've got towels coming. That's the next thing coming from the printers. I've got towels. But I'm sure Goldfish t-shirts are next. And, yeah.
Or maybe a new one.
Well, maybe a new one, yeah. So anyway, yes, Jimmy brought it up. Please hit the like and the bell button. So that bell button right next to subscribe. You'll get notified when we go live. You get notified with new videos, all that kind of stuff. And it helps me out. And then I want to address this real quick. This is the last question I'm addressing, no matter what else I see, because I can go all night. Danielle says, I don't smell any ammonia, but my API ammonia test strip says my ammonia is sky high. I've done everything to reduce it. Please help. What can I do? So in the video you're going to see come out, I think the API test strips are absolutely garbage and not reliable. And I think that's why they get a bad rap, because people use the liquid test kit, then they go and buy the API test strips, and they're garbage. And then they say all test strips are bad. And so the Tetra strips work really well for me. And so I did those versus those. And you'll get to see the results in that video.
I can even understand the Tetra test strips.
There you go. So, all right. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if it's your first time. 474. We beat it by... Or wait, 447. I can't talk.
747. I will talk for you.
Thank you. Still a new record, because we only did 740 last week, so we still broke it, but we got to hit that 800. Booyah!
Yeah!
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see. I won't see you next Sunday. The following Sunday, because I'm in Colorado. If you're anywhere near, come see me. We'll shake hands. We'll take selfies. We'll blab. It'll be fun.
Bring them chocolate milk.
Ooh, bring me chocolate milk, please. All right, thanks, guys.